In this presentation, I shall be talking through my ideas for the three themes of spectacle, memory and power, which are the basis to create possible professional production pieces. I shall also briefly go over the research which has influenced me with the development of these ideas. First theme I developed an idea for was spectacle. For this theme, I immediately thought of music and the live experience and spectacle of the live stage show. Bands which exert their music through the visual experience really adds an element with which it can captivate its audience, and has definitely had that effect on me as a result. Bands and artists that exemplify this idea include Lady Gaga with her wacky and very questionable style and costumes, Muse with the spectacle of their stage setup with space and lighting, and Rammstein who have a very intense and action-packed live show. With this in mind, I thought of creating a 3D music video for a local rock band called Pyro Jewel. This would include the band performing in a staged environment with which I'd be able to experiment fully with camera shots and generally achieving the professional music video style to ultimately be viewable in 3D form. From researching in how to make 3D film, I discovered that it is not as complicated to achieve as I first thought. You don't need big fancy cameras or complicated editing software either. This can easily be achieved by using two standard cameras and editing software which has more than one video track. The only possible viewing outlet for 3D at the moment for non-millionaires is through YouTube and their 3D viewing options for selected videos. You do need professional and expensive 3D glasses to view a video in 3D. Glasses which you can get at the cinema do not work. 3D works with the scientific theory of depth of field. This is calculated distance with which our left and right eyes, different perspectives, are put together and create the 3D effect. This works similarly at the cinema, with the glasses filtering the 3D image through the lenses and only one image entering our eyes to give 3D effect. The related summer research which has influenced with developing this idea is the fine art research I undertook, and looking particularly at Salvador Dali's unique style and quirky imagery. The thought process which is ultimately put into my mind is to be experimental and not limiting my thoughts and, most importantly, my vision. My 3D music video idea would be keeping up with the current trend of 3D that has recently been blitzing both our cinema and TV screens, with Channel 4's fairly recent Derren Brown 3D special and the non-stop cinema releases of blockbuster films such as Avatar and Toy Story 3, with more 3D movies to come before the end of this year. The music video element would be, in my mind, a very fresh form of video that I haven't seen being achieved at all. The next idea is for the theme of memory. The aspect of this particular theme that I had is related to childhood memory and the notion of people looking through their old photographs and remembering and reminiscing about their childhood memories. I feel that a photograph can really tell us something significant about a certain time and place and ultimately transport us mentally back to a time and place, the main staple of vivid memories. The idea which I have is to produce a media installation that would be photography based, which would be projected into an open space and would have a narration from a range of willing volunteers whose childhood is being put on display. The narration would be reflective of what is being shown within the projected photographs or from the time period which is relevant. The summer research that influenced me with this theme and idea was my visit to the Tate Modern in London. As well as the Exposed Voyeurism exhibition, I also went to see Alejandro Sasako's Present Memory video installation piece. This piece looks at the anticipated and constructed memory of the artist's father and the particular connection with which Alejandro has with his subject is what led me to the personal approach for the theme of memory. I also went to see Francis Alice's Story of Deception exhibition, which mostly consisted of videos projections. This influenced me to think of this idea to be displayed in a big space with which the audience would be able to immerse themselves into without any distractions and outside interference. My childhood memory installation idea is purely based on what I consider to be the most interesting form of memory that we have even as adults, and our childhood ultimately makes us into what we are today, whether we are grown up to be mature or not. The last theme that was for the basis for ideas is power. For this theme, I did struggle with ideas as I think I overanalysed the different sorts and definitions of power. I identify power to be something that has a high level of control over something else, such as in a political, social or even physical sense. This can also be weaved into other forms, which is very vast. I then came up with the idea of power in religion and being influenced by the BBC's Panorama programme on Scientology. The programme looked at the bizarre and dangerous ways in which this organisation or religion functions. The power with which this religion exerts over its followers is very intense and can lead to very dangerously expensive costs, such as paying to gain the next level of knowledge, with Tom Cruise and John Travolta being the poster boys for this. This aspect really intrigued me, as being a victim of being pulled into the Scientology HQ in Birmingham really gave me an insight into how power is really the only form of control that it has and isn't really that easy to get out of as a follower. With this in mind, I was thinking of perhaps producing a short film which would be purely fiction based and follow a follower who tries to escape the religion and the struggle they face mentally as a result. On the surface, I can perceive that I would need to delve deep into researching the ins and outs of Scientology, and for the sake of my own mind, I would rather not be brainwashed as a result. The film research I undertook over the summer included looking at Gus Van Sant's Elephant, which is based on the Columbine High School shootings of 2001. This is a very disturbing film that follows particular high school students, such as the jock, the geek, the photographer, and the misfit and other cliché students. The misfit student ends up going on a mass murder spree throughout the school and ultimately gains control and power over all the people who never took notice of him. The violent side of how power can be used was a possible avenue in which I feel would be hard to achieve with all the health and safety regulations, and actually transforming it into a viable short film and not just a normal student film with a thriller genre element. Another film I looked at was Michael Gondry's Science of Sleep. The power element of this film is related to dreams and how they can be transformed in your mind to a very imaginative degree. The stop-motion stylings of the dream sequences really inspired me to perhaps take a less intense take on the theme of power and just have fun and be experimental with it. As for a core idea for the theme, I don't feel that I have even a small wave with which to work from. Overall, I feel more confident with my production ideas for spectacle and memory, and feel I could follow these through to a high professional standard and be more achievable to create as a result.